everybody, welcome back to Retired Renovators. This is a YouTube channel that my husband Gary and I have put together to keep track of the progress of our big brick house in Paducah, Kentucky. And I want to talk just a few minutes about the idea of what is behind walls on these old historic houses. We have a video that we made, I don't know, several months ago. I'll try to link it up here on should you gut your house or not gut your house, and the danger if you don't gut your house, you don't know what is in there. And I just want to emphasize, in the South we say don't put lipstick, you can't put lipstick on a pig, and that is the case in these old historic houses. So what's frustrating for me is this is a house that when we bought it, it was technically gutted, and we've spent at least a year continuing gutting this house, including undoing a lot of things that that previous renovators had done because it was covering up things. And one thing is this plaster. So this is a true brick house, meaning it's not stick wood with a brick facade, but it's 3 layers of brick. The brick was all covered in plaster, which is very common for that time period. This house was built in the very early 1900s. And plaster, according to my research, can last 2,000 years. So you think plaster is great, but let me tell you, it will last 2,000 years if it's treated properly. And I'm not convinced that homeowners treat their plaster properly. For example, I don't know that plaster is meant to be covered in wallpaper, let alone 4 or more layers of drywall or wallpaper, as you can see here. So the reason why plaster lasts is because it breathes. So the air goes through the brick. If it gets wet, the water goes through the brick, hits the plaster, it all kind of moves and breathes and then dries out. You start putting barriers on this side of the plaster, including either paint that doesn't breathe or wallpaper that doesn't breathe, let alone 4 or more layers of wallpaper that doesn't breathe, and you're going to find some plaster that will start to deteriorate. So I first noticed this. I noticed a bulge on one of the walls in the plaster, and I wondered what the heck was that. And so I knocked around with a hammer and put a little hole in it and out poured, I don't know how many buckets of sand. And what it was the plaster had completely deteriorated. Why this is an issue for us here, why we can't just cover it up, is because we're getting ready to put open cell spray foam insulation in the walls for insulation. Open cell will breathe with the brick, but it has to adhere to something. And if this plaster is going to come loose, then that means the insulation might come loose and the whole thing could deteriorate. So I've spent days, if not weeks, going around the house trying to see what's loose, what can come out, and so on. And I've had a lot of plaster easily come off the walls, which is is frightening on a number of levels. Way too much wallpaper that I've tried to get off, and so on. And so what I've found on the front of this house, as if you recall seeing pictures from before, the front of the house has these 3 big door things in front of the porch. Well, whoever did this renovation, I think, just cut the brick willy-nilly. So I'm finding as I get in here lots of loose brick around the frames of the windows, or these doors or windows / doors. The brick is what's holding up the house. It's when it's falling apart, it's a little bit of a concern. So there's a lot of settling in this part of the house, which we've stabilized, but dealing with the ramifications of what that happened. We would never have discovered this had we not taken all this apart. And so I see these houses that are being renovated in Paducah downtown. There's a lot of them. And I see people just covering up things. I want to urge you, don't cover up. Figure out what's going on. Know what your house, if you are renovating a house, know what it is you're dealing with and work from there. So cleaning up all this, it only really requires 3 tools. I've got this pointy little trowel that I can get under here for wallpaper and try and yank off all the layers. I'm not picking it completely clean, just stuff that wants to come off. So that's that tool. And this is a pry bar. I call it a cry bar for obvious reasons. And my trusty yellow hammer, and going around looking for loose pieces of plaster and getting this under here and pulling it off if I see it. Some of the stuff comes off way too easily. So I just want to urge you, if you're thinking of covering up the hot mess of your old house and think that's going to be great, think about the long-term ramifications. Know what it is you're dealing with. Get down to the guts so you can fix it so it will be good for another 100 or some odd years. Okay, that's it. I'm too tired to even say please subscribe, but you know the drill. If you have a moment, hit subscribe. Check out the other to gut or not to gut video and look and see what you're supposed to do with your old historic houses. All right, thanks. Have a great day.